Right, going to start putting the Mark III version of the version 3 version of the Mark together. Before we do this, as you can see, this all in quarters here. Very important to make sure that all the locating holes and the little lugs are clean and have been all the supports and stuff removed from them, and that they actually locate together properly and good and tight and flat. So my initial thing is I'm going to, before I actually do that, is I'm going to put in the heat inserts that need to go in, and there's quite a lot of them, so I'm not going to show you the whole lot, but effectively it's easier to put them in before we actually put the join the whole lot together. And of course, don't forget that there are a few in the bottom where, from this case, where the skeg for the rudder is attached. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll come back when that's done. Okay, we've got all the heat inserts in. There are two different sizes. 4mm for around where the anchor lid goes on, 4mm for where the winch is attached, and the ones on the underside for the skeg and for the motor mount are all 4mm. Everything else are 3mm ones. Okay, right, so we're ready to put these together, and all I'm going to do here is bolt them together with 4mm hex nuts. I'm using G-style washers just to spread the load a little bit, and for each join there are three lugs which fit into the opposing lug on the other side, and there are 3 holes for these 4mm hex bolts alongside them. So only a matter of putting them together and starting to bolt stuff together. So again, I'm not going to waste your time by doing all this while we're here, but it's a matter of just putting them in. Use nylock nuts obviously, and we'll get this done and then we'll come back again. So I will do some bolting and screwing here, and I'll see you in a minute or two. Okay, we have a Mark. It's all bolted together. The joints are all reasonably tight, looking quite good. Now technically this should not leak water in because the bulkheads inside are all 60mm high, and the joining bolts, which is the only hole in those bulkheads, and the lugs are 50mm above the base, and it should float in 25mm of water. But having said that, I had a couple of problems with the prototype version where actually it leaked through where the edges were. The whole thing, the skin is only 1.6mm deep, and we had a couple of adhesion problems where between the actual layers there was actually a slight leak. So what I'm going to do to prevent that in this one is I'm going to do some fiberglass work or glass epoxy work, and I'm going to put a little bit of epoxy cloth across all the joins and on the side of the Mark, so that it's not possible to leak. So we'll take it from there. This is going to take a little bit of time obviously, so I'm going to go out into the outside workshop here, and I'm going to do some epoxy work, and we'll probably come back tomorrow. Right, it's now tomorrow, and that has mostly worked, but not exactly the way I wanted. A small problem with a next door neighbour's cat knocking over all the epoxy just when I was about to use it. Anyway, what I've done to this fella is I've put a little bit of the cloth across the seams and epoxied around it, and I effectively just painted epoxy on everything right up to here, so that should make it completely and utterly waterproof. So we're ready for that. So I'm now going to put a couple more things together, and then we can start assembling the Mark. Okay, time to look at the lid. Now lid's in two parts, only two bolts hold it together, but you will also need to glue it. So same things apply about checking that the holes are the right size and that there's no excess support still under the lug. So once you've got that, we can start putting this together. Unfortunately, you can't get the G form washers on this, so you just have to use the normal washer size for this. Now what I also do with this one is I also glue it together. So once I've got the nuts and bolts in, basically I'll give that a little tighten up. That's not the right size. 7. So once I've got them basically together, we're going to run a little bit of CA glue in there, and then we're going to tighten it up completely. And I've done this with the first two and they worked really well, so I'm just going to continue it. So one thing that is quite useful to use is these little extenders for your glue bottle, so that you can push over the end of the CA glue, and it gives you a very fine point so that when you're putting the glue in, you can get it directly into exactly where you want it to be, and you can control the flow. So we'll put a little bit of glue on the join there where the edge joins, a little bit of glue in there, and then I'm just going to run a little bead down, oops, all the way along inside to make sure that we have this completely watertight joined together. So let's put a little bit of CA glue all the way down, and the same here. So say this little extra little extension to the bottle does make life a little easier. I'll do it right at the end as well. I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing here. So I'm just going to run a little bead of this CA glue, a small bead of it, all the way down for the whole length of the join. Woohoo! It's a bit fiddly, but it's worth doing. And once that's done, we'll put it together, and I'm just going to hold it for a second or two till that CA glue goes off to keep that nice and good, and then I'll go back and I'll tighten up the nuts and bolts as well. So come back in a second. Okay, all bolted up and all glued up, so that's ready to go. We've now got a couple more things to do to the lid to finish it off. First of all, these two have to be glued on. I'm going to use the Zappa CA glue for this, and these are this guy here is for that's just to help turn it, because this lid goes on and then turns to lock in place. So that's that one, and then this small one in the middle is for the flag base. So just a little bit of CA glue, the Zappa glue, and put it in, and just I've put there's a little hole here to tie the mast in, so you don't have to run it with it up all the time, and that's that. Now there are 4 holes here for heat inserts, and I'll do those again in a minute, but I don't need to show you that. But the last thing to do here is that to help with the waterproofing, I'm going to put a bit of this 2mm silicone rubber bead in. This is designed in, there's a little channel all the way around the outside, And to put that in, I'm literally going to just put a little bit of glue in there with the ordinary CA glue. Get it down to the end, and I'm going to put a little dribble of that round the edge. I'll do that far so far, and then we're going to put this into that. I'm just going to use the end of a file here to push that into the hole, and the idea behind this is when it goes on top of the main body of the mark, this will form a watertight seal, so we don't have to, again, to prevent water ingress. So I'm just putting a little bit of this all the way around. And again, I don't need to show you it all, but it's just to give you an idea of what's going in here. And then we'll put some more glue in here. A little bit of CA glue, hold it round. And I'll keep going with this, and that's more or less the lid finished. Okay, just a couple of words about putting this bit together. This is the lid that goes over the anchor well. The only thing I've done to it so far is I've put the pulley block in here and the two big washers. The purpose of the two big washers is to prevent the cable from jumping over the edge. No problem, it leads straight down. Now, what's different with this version from the last version is I've changed the way that when you're hauling the anchor up, when it gets to the top, we want the anchor hauling motor to switch off, and we use a little micro switch to do that, and we do it with, this is the new version of the pivot that switches it off. So I'm going to shove this in here. I've tried, the whole purpose of this was to try and prevent any more water egress, so there's a sort of mantle here in front of where it goes, and we push it through there. You'll see how this works. It gets to the top and it pushes that up, and that pushes this bit down, and this is all held together with one 3mm, I think it's about a 40mm 3mm bolt, hex bolt, or no, button head bolt in this case. So I'm just going to tighten this up, and that's that bit done. Okay, so the idea behind this, once this is tightened up sufficiently, make sure it's still, just back that off just ever so slightly, quarter turn back off, that's fine. Okay, so this, when it comes up, it will knock the back it off a little bit more, it'll knock the micro switch down, and that switches off the power to motor. Okay, so the micro switch just bolts on here, very straightforward, nothing fancy about it. A couple of 3mm bolts will keep it in place, and okay, come on. All right, so these two will hold this. Let's put these on, put the nuts on them. And washer. And I'll put my long boots. Okay. Alright. Okay, so you can see the micro switch when this comes up. I have one 3mm hex head to go in here. Oh, seem to have a small helping hand here today. Hello, socks. So this little hex head, there is actually a thread built into the hole that's in this pivot, and it's quite tight, so the idea is that you can adjust the pivot to suit. So I'll just put it through a little bit, and so when this arrives up, it'll do that. Okay, so now there's two things still to do. Hello, puss. And there's two things still to do here. I've designed this as an extra help to prevent water ingress, and this is like literally just a splash guard which snaps into place. I might have to do a little bit of I seem to have a helper here. This is a little splash guard, and this will snap into place, although I will have to do a little bit of trimming. Socks, bugger off. And that will snap into place. You can't glue this in place, because if you do that, then you won't be able to get this out again, and you do need to get this out occasionally to do things with it. So that I'll trim in a second or two. But then the last thing to do, and I won't bother showing you this because you've seen it all before, but effectively is to put some more of this 2mm silicone bead around the outside of this, and to just super glue it in place so that it's no, it can't, you're not helping, come on. So this will do a little bit more to the waterproofing. Okay, so I'll go and get the cat out of the way, and we'll get this ready to put into the mark. Okay, just a quick video to show you how to put the new winch assembly together. More compact than the one before. A little tab locates it in the back of the mark, and this 4mm hole will allow you to locate the thing positively at the front. The only thing I've done to this so far is I've glued the little bit of pot scour in here. It's a bollocks to cut, so I just actually end up using a pair of scissors, which is the quickest and easiest way to cut it. And the only other thing I've done so far is glue the two ends of the spindle together. So we're now going to stick this in. I'm not going to show you every nut and bolt of this because it'll take too long. I'm just going to give you the quick glance over it for it and pass over the quick bits. So the two little bearings pop into the end, no problem, and then this bolt can go in from either end, it doesn't matter. Washer on the inside, and then the spindle itself. And this is a bit fiddly, so I'm not going to go through the whole lot of this. I'm going to get it started here. Yep, okay. And then we're going to get a washer in the far end. Now, this is a bit of a fiddly job, so I'm not going to do this on video. I'll pause this and we'll put this in. So I'm going to put this washer in, another washer on the end, put the nylock nut on it, and tighten it all up. Okay, that's that on and tightened up. The only friction here is because of the pad there, which is designed to stop the line when it's dropped from spinning out and dropping over the sides of it. Right, okay, no problem. Next one is a bit fiddly, so we're going to put this together first, and then I'll show you how it all goes together. These two bits here, this little frame and this spacer. Now I have across the top here we have a pivot. Now I've made mine out of a bit of 4mm brass tubing because that's what I had, but make it out of whatever you want. This goes in here, and then the spacer just keeps it off the other end, and that goes all the way through. Helps if I put it through the right way around first, because I've drilled a hole in that to locate it. Right, that goes all the way through and to the far end, and you'll notice in your STL that there is a hole in each of these, top of these, and the idea is that you can put a self-tapper through and locate the brass tube. So what we have here is a frame to hold one of the servos, and this is the one that's been converted to a motor. and that will have on it the cog wheel, so this will actually drive the winch, and the other one will just pop in to here, and this is the one that's actually going to control the dropping or not of the thing. So let's stick that in. I'm going to bolt these into place, and I'll bolt this one into place as well, and then I'll come back and tell you what we've got to do now. Okay, so I have this cheapy servo locked into place now, and this one, the one that's now become a motor, is also glued into place. So you can start to see how this works. When I put the gear wheel on this one, and fairly tight fit, at least it's supposed to be. Let me just give it a tweak up, and okay, so in the locked position, this is held down. It can't move, at least the spindle can't move, and this guy here, when we put I'm going to put a little link between these two to when this lifts up, this will lift this away from the spindle and allow it to run out. Putting it back down again locks it in place, and then this guy can do the hauling. So all I've really got to do now is make a little link between these two, so that this will lift that up when it's it, and that's it done. So that's the winch assembly ready to go. Okay, just before we put everything into the shell of the Mark, I want to check the all the electrics. So I basically got them all plugged in here. Battery going to both the speed controller for the thruster and to the buck converter, which brings it down through 6.2 volts to run the winch. And the main reason for doing this is, apart from anything else, to make sure that the position of the servos, like this is the one that lifts the gear off the main gear there to lock it, make sure these are all in the right place and all going the right way around. I had to reverse this one on the on the transmitter. The only other thing to do, so everything basically is working, and everything's going in the right place at the moment. The only thing I really needed to do was I have to assign the drop switch to channels 6 and the haul to channel 5. This on the Fly Sky is only 3-way, so that's why we use that one, and that's very easy to do, because all you need to do then is to go into the menu. Hold that to go into the menu, go into the setup menu and come down to auxiliary channels. Go into auxiliary channels. Now I've already done it on this one, but channel 5, the source is switch C. These are the 4 switches, A, B, C and D. So if I can change through these, C, so that's now channel C, and the same thing, once that's okay, say OK, and the same thing with this, you just cycle down until it says switch D, and then to retain everything on the Fly Sky you hit the cancel button and hold it, and that's it. The only other thing I may need to do on this one, and I haven't quite checked it yet, is to check the endpoints on this particular item here, so that when I drop it, okay, I've got the connection made, but I haven't connected it here while we're testing this. To drop it, I lift these two gears apart, and I only need it to move 2 or 3, well, a couple of centimeters maximum, 20 mil max, and it might move a little more than that, so I'm going to just play with the end points to make sure that that's okay. But that's all you need to do. Everything else is standard, so it's a lot simpler in this model. So that's the electric setup. So we'll now get them put into the mark. Okay, it's time to start putting everything in place. So the first couple of things I'm going to put in place are the simple things. I'm going to install the servo here for the steering servo into its little hole at the back here. Things like the battery box, which just bolts the floor in there, and the bracket that holds most of the electrics. And as you probably see, what I'm using is Velcro to hold some of these things in, so they're easy to get out and maintain and change and so on. This bracket, this looks a bit complicated, is going to bolt in here. Now this bracket also contains a little knob here, and that's what when you put the lid on, that's what the knob from the lid bolts into. So if you don't want to use this bracket and you want to design your own bracket, you can, because there are plenty of holes with screw holes in them to do that. But if part of the STL package that I've put on Thingiverse and on MakerWorld, there will be this lid bracket. I think it's called an alternative lid fastener or something like that. Anyway, that's there, so that if you don't use the electrics bracket, you can use that in its place. So I'm going to go ahead and just put these in, and then I'll come back and we'll go to the next stage. Okay, that's the electrical bracket in, the battery bracket in, and that's just the little clip that holds the battery in place, and the steering servo's in. So now we've got very little left to do inside, just the winch, which goes in very quickly. The tab locates it, and just make sure that's it. The tab locates it, and then it's one 4mm nut, locks it in place, which of course I've dropped. What would we do without these tweezers? Right, okay, let's try again. I'm getting too old for this. Okay. Right. Okay, so that's the winch system in place. The last big thing to put in is the lid for the anchor well. I've just pushed on my cables onto the end of that, so we'll just drop that into its place. And again, in this case, it's 4mm nuts, or 4mm machine screws, button heads that hold this in place. And once we've got this done, then I'll feed the anchor line down through the hole so we can attach the anchor ball to it, and we'll put the rest of the electrics in place, and should be ready to go. Okay, now one more. Right. Okay. Right, that's the anchor well lid in place, and I'll just stick this down through. I need to trim the end of that a little bit. I did run a 3mm drill bit through this earlier on just to make sure it's all ready to go. Okay. A little bit further to get hold of it. Right. Okay. So that's that in place. Now I'm going to collect up all the electrics. Not put the battery in yet, but I'll put the rest of the stuff in place, and then we have the motor to attach on the bottom and the rudder to put through and add on its thing, and then we're basically ready to go to sea. So I'll collect up the rest of the electrics now. Okay, we're getting near the end now. All the electrics have been connected. A few cable ties to keep things out of from floating around, and it's all ready, except for the battery's not there obviously. But it does mean when I turn this upside down now it won't come apart. So let's just flip it. Now, as far as the motor is concerned, these thrusters, they're quite powerful. Thank you, Chris Lawrence, for putting me in the way of these. These are attached just with 3 self-tappers. The motor mounts have been experimenting with different types of motor mount just to see what works well. And of course, because these are here, this hole goes through and comes out 100mm above the ground level, so you can experiment. You can put your own motor on this if you like, and take it from there. So this is straightforward enough. I'm going to put these straight up through the middle, and then we will add the and then we'll add the rudder onto the back. I'll get this in first. Oh dear. Right, so I'll get these through. It's going to be a little awkward just to push them through. I'm going to need to push them through with a wire or something till I get the far end, and once I get to the far end, then we can connect them up inside. And the last one, the hole is just big enough to push the bullets through, the bullet connectors through one at a time. Right, that's looking quite good. Yes, I've got all 3 inside, so I'll go ahead, pull those through, and then I'll bolt this down, and that's the start. Well, as usual, every 3-minute job takes half an hour or an hour. That was a little bit more difficult than I expected, and the reason was that the 6 bolts going into the 6 inserts, heat inserts, didn't just quite line up correctly. So what I did was, the heat inserts are very difficult to get absolutely right, and if they're half a mil or a mil out between 2 of them, it was very difficult. So what I did do was very quickly made a little template for them, for the hole sizes and shapes, and dropped this on, took this out again, put this on top of it, and used the heat insert tool again, the soldering iron, to actually move them the little bit to get them into the right height. So I'll include the STLs for that with the rest of the stuff that goes online. Okay, so we're there. That's up and running. The wires are through. Now, obviously, this hole, there's a bit of a space there. So what I will do, and not do it right now, but what I will do is I'll put a little bead of either silicone, or I might use hot glue to go around that, just to prevent water getting in there. That silicone is already from the manufacturer for the motor, so that's fine. Right, now this end, I have the rudder ready to go on its little piece of 3mm stainless steel rod. How did you get the rod in and to stay there? Well, actually what I did was I put the rod on a vise, I heated it up with one of these heat gun things, which I use for cutting aramid line and things like that. I heated the whole thing up and then I pushed the rudder down on it. Now that's what I did with the first one and it seems to have worked. It's still sitting there, so I've done that with the second one. And you've got to push it through a little bit more than the rudder because the end of it fits into the hole in the bottom of the skeg. So that's now ready to be put into place. Okay, and I'll now just put the skeg in place there, and I'll bolt the skeg on top of it. That only needs about 4 of these. I think these are 10mm, just 10mm 4mm bolts. So that will be the skeg put in place, and then we're ready to turn it over and make sure everything works. Okay, so I'll get ahead with that, and that's another job done. Okay, we're getting really near now. I've got this in. I have had the same problem with the alignment of the heat inserts as I had with the motorbike. Not as bad. It was a very simple one. It was just one needed to be slightly realigned with the insert tool. So that's the rudder in place and quite firmly in place. So I'm going to turn this upside down and then do well, there's the anchor to add onto that, and it's somewhere here. I'll tie that on. That's probably the last thing to do. So I'll just turn this upside down and then we'll look at the inside. Now I did make a small simple carrier for this, which is just a couple of bits of scrap 18mm ply, so that I can both work on it on the mark without damaging the rudder or the motor mount, and these allow me to carry the thing about as well. Okay, so very little to do here now. The main thing is to add on the servo arm. Let's just get a bit more light in there. To add on the servo arm to the rudder, I need to I'll open that up a little bit. So that servo arm has to go on, and we'll tighten that down. And I have to make up a link between the arm of this and that, and that's us more or less done here. The cables from the motor, which have come through and are sitting here, I will be putting into the bullet connectors here, and then we'll put a little bit of cable tie around that, and just to tidy that all away. So that's nearly done. And then we have the lid to put on. Again, this is a twist lid, so it goes down on and then twists to, oh sorry, it won't twist without in place, and it twists to go into place, and then that secures it. The actual flag for this one is just, I just printed this is 2 layers of 0.12 of a millimeter, so it's got layers both directions, and I'll glue that onto the swivel, and then the swivel just clips onto the mast, and it will flip out. You don't have to use this, of course, you can use anything at all, and that pops in there quite tight, and I'll put a bit of string between those, and that is our mark finished. So I'm going to go ahead and tidy these last things up, and then to finish this off, I'll take this down tomorrow morning, and we'll have a little run with it at the jetty at Ballingham Yacht Club, just to make sure everything works okay. And that's another one built. Okay, cheers.